want to, but it only bothers us. So, I mean, sometimes if you're looking at a map and Dwayne is doing a presentation, he wants to see, he needs to see the screen because he's speaking on the screen. If there are any other Watermaster board members on the line, could you please identify yourself now for the record?
With us since the inception, and he's a charter member of our Watermaster Board of Directors. So Dennis, thank you for all your service and thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Rob.
At this time, I'd like to call for roll call.
Okay, Director Atkinson.
Here.
Director Ricci.
Here.
Director Calandri.
Here.
Director McLaren.
Here.
Director Paris.
Here.
Kate White.
Here.
Craig Parton.
Here.
Matt Knutson.
Here.
Peter Thompson.
Here.
All present.
At this point, we're going to item 3, adoption of the agenda. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved. Second.
And I didn't get who moved on that. Say your name when you make the motion and your name when you say the second, please. Who moved to adopt the agenda?
Calandri.
John?
Seconded by Adam.
And Adam seconded that motion. Any discussion? See no discussion, all in favor of the motion say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Yep. Sorry, we have to roll call.
No?
That's my problem. Go ahead, Patty, do the roll call.
Director Atkinson.
Yes.
Director Ricci.
Yes.
Director Calandri.
Yes.
Director McLaren. Kathy. Director McLaren.
Yes.
Thank you. And Director Paris.
Yes. Motion's passed unanimously. We're now on public comment. Is there public comment for any non-agenda items?
Mr. Chairman, this is John Calandri. I don't know if I should bring this up here or at the 11-4 filing of landowners election results, but it has gotten to me that there has been some counting issues and some discrepancies, and there's somebody in the audience that I'd like to call to explain what happened. So what is the pleasure of the chairman when this should be brought up?
I'm going to ask our general counsel to give me advice on when this should be brought up. I believe there's a portion of the agenda for this item.
There is. The Watermaster administrative staff is going to report on that, and I can report on the status of the court filing of the election results, and that's part of my report.
Okay. John?
I'm going to be discussing some discrepancies that I want brought to light. So we'll wait till 11-4. Is that correct?
Or actually,
Or 9A.
not 9A would probably be the appropriate place to bring that up.
Okay, 9A. You got it. Thank you.
And I'll mark that and try to remind you to. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public comments for non-agenda items? Hearing none, we'll move on to item 5. There are no special presentations, so we'll move on to item 6, the consent agenda. And I received an email from Dan Powell that he wishes to speak at the item D, consent agenda item D. So I'm going to pull item D from the consent agenda, and the consent agenda will be items A, B, and C at this point. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda items A, B, and C?
We have somebody that can raise their hand.
Okay. We can do a motion in a second and then they can discuss.
Yeah.
Okay. So is there,
Motion by McLaren.
Okay, Kathy has moved to approve the consent agenda as item A, B, and C, which are the payment of bills, treasurer's report, and accounts receivable. Is there a second to that motion?
Dennis, second.
Motion second by Dennis. Is there any discussion? We have received a hand, so can we, who would like to discuss that item?
They don't have a name associated.
Yes, this is Stan Powell. I raised my hand to discuss item 6D that I understand you're going to discuss later. So that's why I raised my hand, and I will wait the moment you get over to the minutes part of it. Thank you.
Okay, Stan. Yeah, that's why I pulled it, so we could make sure you were heard at that point. So any further discussions on the consent agenda, items A, B, and C? Hearing none, we'll have a roll call vote. All in favor of the motion?
Director Atkinson,
Yes.
Director Ariki,
Yes.
Director Calandri,
Yes.
Director McLaren,
Yes.
and Director Paris.
Yes. Motion's carried unanimously to approve consent agenda items A, B, and C. We're now on item D, the minutes. And I believe, Stan, you had a comment to make?
Yes, I did. I wanted to propose an addition to the minutes. I provided the specific language to Patty last night and also copied Jim Markman on that email. The language I'm proposing would go into section 9G A4 of the minutes that dealt with the hearing we had on the rules and regulations, the storage rule, and I propose to add some language to capture some of the comments Mr. Markman made. I would be happy to read it over the phone. I believe the Watermaster board may have that language in front of you. And so I guess I would ask Rob what the pleasure of the board is if they would like me to read the proposed language.
Yes, Stan, go ahead and read the language that you would like to have added.
Okay. So the proposed language would be as follows. Mr. Markman, representing AVEC, supported the Watermaster's adoption of the proposed language for Rule 9 and acknowledged that pre-existing water bank operations are subject to the no material injury rule. Mr. Markman also recognized that water banks should not run a negative balance and that negative storage amounts may result in a replacement water obligation unless the deficit is addressed by other water rights to produce water, such as production rights, imported water return flow rights, or other stored waters. And that was the end of the proposed addition.
Okay, thank you, Stan. Are there any other comments regarding that? Dwayne Chisholm is here at the meeting. Go ahead, Dwayne.
Yes, Dwayne Chisholm, General Manager for the Antelope Valley East Kern Water Agency. I think that misstates those comments kind of misstate and take a little bit out of context the discussion that was going on during that meeting. The agency wouldn't support trying to place policy statements in the minutes for the agency about what they're going to do with the water banks or not. We think that the rules and regulations speak for themselves and should be adopted as written, and the minutes should reflect that, and without the additional commentary, because it just, once again, just opens up more issues for discussion that I thought were all resolved with the adoption of the rules and regulations. I would not support changing the minutes as reflected by Stan Powell.
Thank you, Dwayne. Any further discussion?
This is Adam. Out of the minutes reflecting what was said at the meeting last time when we approved that section?
Adam, the minutes are attached to the agenda package. The minutes reflect action was taken.
Right.
And
so why are you changing it? That's what I don't understand.
Well, no, it's just a request by Stan to add that. It's there's no motion to do that.
Okay. Yeah, because they reflect what happened, so we approved it as it is.
Yeah, it's just comment.
Okay.
Any other comment? Mr. Markman, I believe you had
Yes,
comment?
I'm on that subject matter. I don't dispute that Stan may have extracted from many sentences, maybe too many, that I said that day, but I don't think that these are in context. For example, just to give you one example, I noted that the water banks are prior existing facilities prior to entry of the judgment, in some cases prior to the adjudication even commencing. And that's no different than all the facilities operated by other people, other entities subject to the judgment. Water wells, large production facilities, water treatment plants, any and all of those things could cause, theoretically, some material injury down the line. So I think it's to isolate the pre-existing water banks in that context is a sampling rather than getting to the true heart of what I was saying. And so I agree. Once you start taking statements that were made to support a position and sticking them in the minutes, then you're going to get away from action minutes, and you're going to have to record what everybody said. To be fair about it, it has to be pretty much all the points that were being made by all sides. So I don't think it would be fair to just take that extract and put it in the minutes.
Thank you, Jim. Any further comments? Do we have any other hands raised? Okay. Is there a motion at this time to approve the consent agenda item D, the minutes of the July 22nd, 2020 regular meeting?
Yeah, this is Adam. I move that we approve the minutes from the previous meeting. I don't know what the date was.
Motion made by Adam. Is there a second?
Landry, second.
Motion seconded by John to approve the consent agenda item D, the minutes. Is there any further discussion? Hearing no further discussion, all in favor of the motion, we'll have a roll call vote.
Director Atkinson,
Yes.
Director Ricky,
Yes.
Director Calandri,
Yes.
Director McLaren,
Yes.
and Director Paris.
Yes, motion's passed unanimously to approve consent agenda item D. We're now on advisory committee report. And who will be giving that report? I believe it's committee chair
James.
Jason. Go ahead, please.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. This is James Chase, Little Rock Creek Irrigation Advisory Committee Chair. We met last Wednesday, August 19th, to discuss action items A and B. The new production point of extraction applications, the committee discussed and recommended approval of the applications. The committee, however, does have some concerns of applicants who appear to have low estimated water use. The committee recommends the AB Watermaster monitor approved new production for differences in groundwater use from the estimated groundwater used in the application. Item B, replacement well application. The committee discussed and recommended approval of the application. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Okay, are there any questions for James at this time? Okay, hearing no further questions, thank you.
Thank you.
Now we're on action items, item 8, new production applications. I believe that's going to be Kate.
Yep. Good morning. Can everyone hear me all right? This is Kate White from Todd Groundwater.
We hear you very well. Thanks, Kate.
Great. In response to the advisory committee concerns about people underestimating their water use on new production applications, we will And we do monitor and look at what they are pumping and compare that to their estimate. And we do that in the annual report. And I think if we see large discrepancies, we'll bring that to the attention of the board and decide what to do at that point. And there's some options of if they're pumping, a lot more, perhaps we'll ask for a new production application for that additional water, and we can address that when that time comes. Unless anyone else has any other suggestions on what we can do for that. And I will move forward with the applications. And the first application is on page 36 of the packet. And that's for new production for domestic use in the Central Antelope Valley subarea. And the applicant will use the water for a single family home and fruit trees. And the water use is estimated at 1 acre-foot per year. And we find that there's no potential for material injury as defined in the judgment. Do you have any questions on this first application?
Kate, this is John Calandry. Did you say the estimated use for the house and the trees was 1 acre-foot?
Correct.
I think that seems like a low estimate just off the top of my head. That maybe is what the concern of the advisory committee was, I heard.
Yeah, it's interesting is that all the applications are for 1 acre-foot per year. And it could be low, and I think we're going to look at really what they're pumping. And it really depends upon the outside irrigation and what they're actually using.
Yeah, of course. But do they have a meter? They will have a meter?
Yep, all these new production applicants will be metering, so we will be looking at actually what they're using.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Welcome. And the second application is on page 50 of the packet. And this is also for 1 acre-feet per year of new production. And it's for shade trees and a trailer in the future. And it's in the Central Antelope Valley subarea. And we also find that there's not a potential for material injury as defined in the judgment for this application. Are there any questions on this one?
Nope.
Okay. So moving on. The third application starts on page 62. And it's also for new production for domestic use for a single family residence and about 80 pepper trees in the southeast subarea. And the applicant also plans on having chickens, cows, and goats on the property. And we feel that since the applicant will be paying a replacement water assessment, that the potential for material injury is defined in the judgment to be negligible for this application as well. Any questions on this one? Okay, nope. Moving on. The next application is on page 78, also for new production. And the applicant actually had submitted a new production application, and it was approved in May of 2020. And it was approved for seasonal crop coverings and to grow vegetables and flowers. But the applicant would now like to include the possibility of adding a house to the property in the future. And there's no associated increase in water use. And the LA County has requested an approval letter from the Watermaster for the addition of a residence on the property. And so hence that's why it's back to the board. We find that the addition of the house to the property will not increase the potential for material injury at this property.
But Kate,
Okay.
yes.
Adam, go ahead.
Since the amount of water is not changing, why do we have to approve if you would have a home or trees or whatever the case may be. I mean, the Watermaster approval is for the amount of water that is planned to be contracted, right?
Correct. But our approval letter that I had written that went to the county was only for seasonal crop coverings for vegetables and flowers, and it didn't include a house. So the LA County said, and the applicant, wanted to perhaps do a house in the future. And so LA County came back to us and said, we need you to write a letter saying that the applicant can also put a house on that property. And I probably could have
just do that.
I probably could have just done that, but I thought it might be better to have it on record that it went to the board and that board approved it.
All right. Okay. I just don't want to get into the habit of approving homes.
And this is Calandry. I'm going to be very candid. I have a problem with everybody saying they're going to use 1 acre foot. I think those are very low estimates. I think we need to be a little bit more on our guard. If you're going to have 80 trees and this and that, and then they've asked for 1 acre foot, and then they want to add a house, that's another acre foot, just adding a house. I believe Adam probably has the average use of a family of 4. I think it's 1 acre foot just for a home, isn't it, Adam?
Yeah, that's about right.
So these estimates are faulty, and I think we need to be on our guard. So we have the right, going into it, we have the right numbers.
Right. In this case, the applicant, it's more if they ever want to sell the property and they want to sell it, they would stop growing the vegetables and flowers and they would sell the property, and the new person who buys the property could build a house on it instead. So it's, in my opinion, my belief, it was either or, as opposed to both.
Mm-hmm. Now these are all properties that will pay replacement water, right?
Correct.
Katie?
Correct. Yes.
And then and so this is a question for Greg. Are those that do not have water rights and plan to pump and pay replacement water, are they limited to 1 acre foot, or they can use more as long as they pay more?
If they are new production applicants and parties to the judgment, they're restricted to the amount that they prove up. And if they use more than that, and if it's determined they use more than that, then they will pay further replacement water assessment above and beyond what they're paying for the 1 acre foot or whatever it is from the get-go.
Yeah, but my question was related to those that do not have water rights, but they were non-pumpers, and now they want to pump, and I think the judgment allows them to do so, and I thought it was limited to 1 acre foot, but a non-pumper, and you didn't get any water rights. You have a property, and now you want to pump. Are you limited to only to pump 1 acre foot, or can you pump more as long as you pay replacement water?
Yeah, I'd have to check the judgment on that. I think you're talking about a Willis class member, and if they come online, whether they are restricted to 1 acre foot without reviewing the judgment.
Right, and because those three applications are similar. They're folks that don't have water rights, and they will be paying replacement. So maybe one of the other attorneys, Warren, Keith, Markman, whoever is there, if you have an answer to my question, I would appreciate it. Because that is a concern. John brought up a concern. I agree with his concern, but in my mind, I'm thinking, well, if there is no limit, we can always, because it's going to be metered, we can always make them pay more when they report production, as Katie said. But if there is a legal requirement that they're limited to 1 acre foot, that would change the equation.
Yeah. And happy to get that answer for you for the next meeting.
All right. I mean, if there is no one coming up with an answer, then we may have to wait on those properties that John raised concern about, because I share his concern as well. I think the amount of water is small relative to the proposed use.
Adam, Robert Cush on the phone. May I address the board?
Go ahead, Robert.
I think the answer to Adam's question, and maybe the solution, is that the Watermaster approval, similar to a will-served letter, comes with a limitation on water production. So if your estimate is 1 acre foot, then the analysis from the Watermaster engineer is based on that estimate, and the permission given is to pump up to 1 acre foot, period. If they exceed that, then I think in the future there would be a directive from the Watermaster to cease production beyond what's been approved, or come back to the water engineer with a revised estimate and a new analysis.
So, Mr. Cush, does the judgment allow for that?
It does. It neither. I don't think it addresses it one way or another. Right. The judgment says that you shall apply to the Watermaster engineer, who will make a material injury analysis. So the extent of the analysis is only for the 1 acre foot requested. The approval should be limited to the 1 acre foot requested. And then, folks, what I would tell folks is, if you think you're going to go over that, then err on the high side, because you may very well be enjoined in the future in times of shortage from pumping in excess of that amount.
But your question, Adam, is whether the applicant is restricted as a non-pumper coming into this situation to 1 acre foot pursuant to the judgment.
Exactly.
And
it sounded, if I understand Mr. Fish correctly, he's saying the judgment didn't address this one way or another.
Yeah.
I seem to think he was limited to 1 acre foot. And therefore, I think we are wait on the approval of these applications until our attorney research the matter and get back with us with recommendations. Because practically speaking, I'm not sure that it would be very difficult to tell people you can't pump more than 1 acre foot because the analysis was done for 1 acre foot. I'd rather kind of do it in the beginning now, if they need to redo the analysis and redo their estimate before the approval, to the extent that we were allowed under the judgment to do so, than to retroactively go 3 years from today or 2 years down the road and try to make them do that. So that's my recommendation to the board. I don't know if anyone else has different feelings about this. Waiting a month is not going to be a big deal.
Any further discussion?
So this is Adam, do you want me to propose a motion, Mr. Chair?
My feeling on this is, historically, we've always approved these based upon these estimates. I don't know what the answer is, but I think we've always assumed that new production could use more than 1 acre foot. However, they're paying for whatever they use. So if that's the case, what Mr. Cush brought up is interesting, in that if they're applying for just 1 acre foot, could we later go and enjoin them from using more than that in times of shortage? But if they're paying for replacement, then we are supplementing the basin for what they're using. So my feeling is we should approve these and not keep these people from building houses and going forward with putting their wells on. And we'll discuss it at the next meeting when Craig gives us more information. But I would always assume new production would be paying.
Mr. Chair, most of what we've approved, they were small pumpers that actually have the right to pump in the groundwater basin, up to 3 acre feet. We've approved very, very few, 2 or 3, if I recall, that were non-pumpers. And that's really my concern. My concern is not the amount, whether it's going to be 3 acre feet or 2 acre feet or 1 acre foot. My concern is these are non-pumpers, and no one, well, at least our attorney, needs time to confirm that there is no limit, or there is no 1 acre foot limit on these folks, the non-pumpers, to pump if they came into the basin. That's really why I brought this up.
Sure. And I can't imagine there's going to be a 1 acre foot limit on every new production, or anybody even contemplated that, because that would, in essence,
I don't know why I think
stop
that's
all development of all land not under the judgment. So, Craig, what are your thoughts?
Well, I'm having difficulty seeing the practical difference whether you approve it today or not. There's a 1 acre foot agreed upon new production application in each of these cases that, if exceeded, is subject to enforcement by the Watermaster for being in excess of their production right granted to them in the new production application. So I think the potential harm of going forward is de minimis, even if we find there's a 1 acre foot limitation in the judgment for non-pumpers in a new production application, which I'd be surprised if the judgment says that. But if it does, these people have already agreed to a 1 acre foot. So the practical result of it seems to me to be no harm in approving this, subject to a report at the next board meeting. If there's a firm and hard limit, we can inform the applicants of that situation. But it doesn't seem to me to be a practical difference if we go forward now or wait a month.
Okay. Any further discussion? Okay, we're on item 8A. Is there a motion to approve the new production applications?
This is Kate. There's actually 2 more I haven't talked about yet. Do you guys want to hear those?
Go ahead, Kate. Thank you for letting me know.
Just to continue this discussion. There's 2 more, and the next one starts on page 96. And it's also
for 1 acre foot too, right?
It's also for 1 acre foot, correct. And it's single family home and ground cover and some fruit trees. They're in the West Antelope Valley sub-area. And we also think that there's the potential for material injury as defined in the judgment to be negligible for this application. And the last one is on page 108, and it's application by SoCal Property Plus, and they're also requesting 1 acre foot per year for a single family home with ground cover and trees. And again, we find no potential injury for this one. Any questions on those other last 2?
Okay, any further questions?
The same thing, sir. No.
Okay, so we recommend approval of resolution R-20-26, which is on page 32 of the packet. In the Exhibit A to that application in the packet has a typo. The last line is a duplicate of the Navis application, and it really should be the SoCal Property Plus application.
Patty, can we fix that before it's signed?
Yes.
Okay.
Done.
So for the board members, if this gets approved, that will be fixed before we sign that application. And okay, any further discussion on new production applications? If not, is there a motion to approve resolution number R 2026?
So this is Adam, since I was the one that had the concern. I'm fine with the motion to approve the application, subject to what Greg proposed, and that is depends on the finding of our attorney. In the next meeting, the board will or will not, depends on what the attorneys tell us, inform these applicants of the limit to 1 acre foot using a letter, through a letter, or whatever consequences.
If in fact there is a limitation, right, Adam?
Pardon me?
If in fact there is a limitation, correct?
Correct. That's what I was saying. Only if there is. If there is no limitation, I have no concern at all, because then they will pay the replacement lot. But to the extent that our attorney tells us there is a limitation of 1 acre foot, then we need to send these folks a letter stating that there is a limitation, and if they exceed that 1 acre foot, the consequences, whatever the consequences our attorney tells us will be.
Well, and we may want Craig to do a letter to all new producers anyway, just explaining to them what the judgment requires, because I believe whether it's 1 acre foot or 100 acre foot, they're still going to pay replacement.
Yeah, and that's part of the application process now.
Yeah. So,
right, that's what I thought. So I'm assuming that's the case.
And they may think that if they just put down 1 acre foot, that's all they're ever going to be charged. So it might be good to just clarify that early on in the process. So anyway, Adam, you made the motion to approve resolution number R 2026?
With the condition I stated, or Craig stated.
Okay. And that's
and
just
that is, like I said, like a letter.
That Craig by letter will clarify what exactly the judge says about the use of any additional water over the 1 acre foot. Is there a second to that motion?
Calandry, second.
Motion made by Adam, seconded by John. Is there any further discussion?
Yes.
Any further discussion? Please mute your phones if you're having conversations going on. Thank you. Okay, all in favor of the motion to approve resolution number R 2026? All in favor by roll call vote, Patty?
Director Atkinson,
Yes.
Director Ricky, Director Ricky,
Adam, I'm sorry, you're muted. You do *6.
Yeah, to unmute, you need to do the *6 if you've been muted.
Adam, are you able to do *6?
Go on with the rest of the roll call, and then we'll go back to Adam while he's working on it.
Director Calandry,
Yes.
Director McLaren,
Yes.
and Director Paris,
Yes.
Director Ricky,
Gonna call my phone.
We're just waiting for a moment because of technical difficulties. We'll get the meeting moving shortly.
Just have him get on his phone. Oh, God.
Adam, are you on yet?
Hello, this is Adam. Can you hear
Thank
me?
you, Adam.
Yeah, we hear you,
Yeah,
Adam.
I didn't do anything. I kept putting *6 several times.
Yeah,
I'm sorry,
that's fine.
I'm not following.
Yeah,
Okay.
just don't mute and try to be real quiet unless we're doing roll call or you're talking.
Okay, so we were doing the roll call vote, Adam. So it was for the new production applications, and were you?
I heard everything. I heard everything.
Okay, very good.
Okay, Adams voted in the affirmative. That's the motion to approve resolution number R 2026 has been approved unanimously. We're now on item B, replacement well application, and that's going to be Matt.
Yep.
Go ahead, Matt.
All right, thank you. Good morning. This is Matt. In your packet on page 119 is resolution R-20-27, and this is for a replacement well application submitted by Vulcan Material. They are a party to the judgment on Exhibit 4. They have 260 acre-feet of production rights. They have an existing well located at their facility in Palmdale off of Avenue T. They are requesting to replace that well. The new well is about 250 feet away from the existing well. There also should bring your attention to page 124 of your packet, where there's an attached statement from Vulcan stating that they will not at this time abandon the existing well. So they want to keep that well as a backup in case the new well is down for maintenance. So with that, I'd be happy to answer questions.
Are there any
I think
questions?
we discussed that they are going to keep. I just want to clarify something with Matt real quick. I think we talked about they will keep the existing. They would keep the existing meter on the well, right, Matt?
Correct. Both the existing meter, the new meter will be metered, or new well will be metered.
Okay, any further questions? Hearing no further questions, is there a motion to approve resolution number R 2027 approving replacement well application?
I move that, McLaren.
Motion made by Kathy, second by
Adam.
Adam. Is there any further discussion? Hearing no further discussion, all in favor of the motion to approve resolution number R 2027 approving the replacement well application?
Director Atkinson.
Go ahead.
Director Atkinson.
Yes.
Director Ricky.
Yes.
Director Calandri.
Yes.
Director McLaren.
Yes.
Director Paris.
Yes. Motion carried unanimously. We're now on item 9, Administrator's Report, Landowners Representative and Alternate Elections Update. John, I'll have Matt give his report and then ask for any questions. And I have it that you and some others may have questions. Matt, go ahead.
All right, thank you. Good morning. Again, this is Matt. So 9A is an update on the landowner representatives and alternate elections. As you know, we went through the process of nominating individuals for the vacancies created by Dennis Atkinson. And also we go through the process every 2 years for the alternate landowner seats. So there were 3 nominations, one for landowner rep for Derek Urosic, and 2 alternate nominations, George Capello and Adrian Recca. So those ballots were sent out to all Exhibit 4 parties. We received, or the Inspector of Elections oversaw the collection of those ballots. As Director Calandri stated, he had heard correctly that there was an issue with the first ballot count that was submitted by Craig Parton to the courts. I immediately received a phone call from one of the Exhibit 4 parties stating that their votes did not show up on the tally. So the Inspector of Elections has corrected that issue, and I believe Craig Parton is set to, within the next couple of days, refile the results with the court. The oversight did not change the end results because we only had one nomination for landowner rep. That is going to be Derek Urosic, and the alternates we only had 2, and so the primary alternate will be George Capello, and the secondary will be Adrian Recca. And maybe I could open up for any questions on this item.
Okay, are there any questions or comments? John, did you want to discuss this?
Yeah, I have a. I heard there was more than one entity not counted, so that would be my first question. I was going to ask Adrian if she wanted to speak on this for a moment. I'm going to put her in the hot seat if she wants to be in it.
Okay, well, thank you, John.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. And again, thank you, Chairman Paris and all directors. And please know, I certainly am not trying to sound like sour grapes at all. I respect the decisions that the other landowners have made. But my concern is the Officer of Elections has still made some errors in these ballots. The problem being, and I will use mine solely as the example, on August 18th, when the original ballots were made, my votes were cast, one properly and one improperly. And then on the corrections that were made for the August 20th, my votes have disappeared. So basically on August 18th, 15 votes were counted. On the 20th, there were only 16 present. So some of which I want to compliment those who saw that their votes weren't counted, was wonderful that they spoke up. But I still think the Inspector of Elections has made mistakes, because now my votes have disappeared, and who knows who else's have disappeared simply because of this pattern. I don't know if others are as diligent in checking that their vote was counted. So it did take a process to get there. So I just wanted you all to know, I think there's something still very strange with the way that this was handled. And even like the grid pattern was changed. Why would that even be changed for the voting? So I just wanted all of you to.
Adrian, thank you. And Matt, can you respond to that?
Yeah. We hear you, Adrian Recca, and we acknowledge that there were mistakes made through the process. We feel that the most recent declaration submitted by the Inspector of Election and the results that are going to be transmitted to the court by Craig Parton are true and correct. So like I said, in the next couple of days, those final results and corrected results will be submitted to the court.
And Matt, my only concern with that is that they're not right. Again, my votes, who knows who else was not counted in this. And again, my votes were dropped for no arbitrary reason. My votes were originally cast to the wrong people. And then now it's totally gone. So I realize I only make up 251 votes, but what of other people that were maybe not counted and missed? And again, those people are maybe not being as diligent as the first person who called you to say, my vote was not there, which I compliment. And I just think there is an absolute flaw with the Inspector of Elections in handling this whole thing. And I can only point to myself, I cannot point to others, and mine will not change the outcome, and I will 100% support those who have made it. Please understand that. I just want you to know there's something desperately wrong with that voting system.
Well, I know the Inspector of Elections is on the line if he'd like to speak up and address the concerns brought up today. And also Craig Barton, I think he's working with the Inspector of Elections to make sure any declarations are true and correct before the final results are submitted to the court.
Yeah, let me just say, this is Craig Barton, that the Watermaster General Counsel's role in this is only to transmit what the Inspector of Elections certifies as the results to the court. And actually the rules say the inspector is to do that, but we offer to do it just because we have familiarity with how to get things filed with the court. So that's been our role.
Good morning.
Mike, is that you?
Yes, it is me, Mike Shabaki, Inspector of Election. I would like to address some of these issues. First of all, we can blame everything on the coronavirus per se, but since I was in the office and Watermaster staff in their office, when we received different ballots through the email, we forwarded that email to the Watermaster staff. We were looking at everything and we printed everything, but we could have not got together to look at all the voting that received by us. And the reason that one time that the records, Ms. Records' vote was missing, because when it was emailed, that email, I guess it was a flaw, something that the number wasn't showing. That's why we wanted to be very sure that all the election is correct, all the votes counted, and we have been going back and forth with the Watermaster staff, and we reviewed everything. And the last one that we had, we came up with the result, and we are sure that this is a result that will be filed with the court.
Mike, this is Robbie. Adrian's concern was still this final election, her vote still isn't counted, I believe is what she said. Is there a way to verify that?
Yes, of course. We have all the emails. We can print them again, and she's welcome to come in, and we can sit down with her and go over all the votes, and she can verify everything we have done.
And Rob, may I say something?
Go ahead, man.
I don't think Adrian Recca has seen the latest results that are going to be submitted to court, because that hasn't gone out to all the producers. So, Adrian, if you could wait, I mean, we can talk about some options additionally, but the final results have yet to go to the court, which do include your tally.
So there's been 3 then. There's an 8/18, there's an 8/20, and then there's another date that these have been retallied?
That's correct.
Okay. Well, and that's fine. And Mike, I appreciate the time you took. It's not, and I'm not, again, I'm not going to come in and sit down with numbers. I just know that I can only look to mine. My concern is if I missed, who else got missed? Who else didn't go? I mean, it was a very low voter turnout, which is a shame, but bottom line, what's been produced has been aired and flawed. So I just simply wanted to make sure you all were aware of it. That's all.
and we appreciate you bringing it to attention. We're as frustrated as you are, and trust me, we're definitely going to improve the process the next go around.
Adrian and John, I really appreciate you bringing this up because.
Thank you.
And I think maybe before the next election, maybe we can have a committee which Adrian as our secondary alternate. If the board would approve it, you could be one of the members of it, and we can make sure that everything goes smoothly next time.
Is this we're going to vote on filing these in a minute, aren't we?
No, that does not get voted on.
Okay. All right. Then I will make it doesn't get voted on. Okay. Well, I'm going to step out and be bold. If this happens again, I will contest it and not support it being filed if this happens again. But I will go along with the group this time.
Yeah, John, and I think sincerely, why don't we, before the next election, let's have a committee be involved so that we can really fine tune it and look at it. Obviously, this isn't something that any of us want to happen in the future.
Yeah. No, I understand. We all want it to go right. I know that, and I thank you for listening to all of that. Adrian and I, and we'll go forward, and we'll do better next time.
Really appreciate you bringing it to everyone's attention, and these are the type of conversations we need to have so that we all know what's going on and we're comfortable with what the process is. So, thank you.
Thank you, Rob.
Okay, we're on item 9, Administrator's Report, Replacement Water Update.
Yeah, I'm going to turn that over to Peter Thompson.
All right. Good morning. This is Peter. At a previous Watermaster board meeting, you approved the turning over the replacement water assessment fees to the Antelope Valley State Water Contractors. I'm happy to report that the Antelope Valley State Water Contractors Association has met, and the general managers of all three of the association members have agreed on who will be responsible for those replacement water. And now staff is working with both entities to develop a plan for where exactly that water will be deducted from or delivered to. That plan will go to Phyllis for her review and concurrence, and our intent is to have that plan back before the board at the next Watermaster meeting. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Are there any questions for Peter regarding replacement water update?
Yeah, real quick. This is Adam. Real quick, Peter. So the replacement water for over what period? 2 or 3 years, or how long?
That's a good question. That's a good question, Adam. This only covers the water that has been paid for by those that have overpumped, and my understanding that is only within the year 2018.
Actually, it covers the years 2016 through 2018. Yeah.
Okay. So 2016, 17, and 18. And the follow-up question to that, are we going to do this annually, or are we going to do it every 3 or 4 years, or how? I mean, my preference is for it to be done annually, unless there is some administrative issue that prevents us from doing so.
Yes, the intent is to do this annually.
Thank you, Peter.
Okay, any further questions? Hearing no further questions, we're now on the Watermaster Engineer's Report. Kate?
Hi, good morning again. I wanted to get some input on an application that we are processing for new production, and that this application will be available for review next month, but I kind of wanted to bring it up now. And the first reason is that the new production request is for 215 acre-feet per year, so it's quite a bit of water. It's a lot higher than what we have approved in the past for new production. And you can see the figure up on your screen. The Bannock parcel shows the location of where the well is in the West Antelope sub-area. And the applicant is a member of the small pumper class. and he's located in the West Antelope sub-area, as you can see. And he has 2 wells on his property. A domestic well that supplies his house and is a small pumper class well. He also has an industrial well that he has been using to supply construction water to nearby wind and solar farms since late 2018. And the industrial well is about 600 feet deep and screened between 360 and 600 feet. And the water's pretty deep there. It's about 360 feet as well, deep in that area. And I looked on an aerial to find out what kind of houses are nearby. And the closest property that may have a well looks to be about a mile away, but I'm not positive on that. The applicant's going to be paying, of course, replacement water assessments for this water. But I just wanted to know if anyone knows of water level declines in this area, because we received an anonymous caller report for this pumpage, and that person reported a problem with their well, but we have no way to contact them and really find out if there's local water level declines happening. And the last issue is that at this point, nothing in the judgment or the rules and regulations specifically prohibits a new production party from turning around and selling the water that they pumped from their property for use on a different parcel, as long as there's no material injury. So I just kind of wanted to throw all this information out now for discussion purposes, to help us write up the correct application, have that ready for the advisory committee and board approval next month.
So, Kate, this is Adam.
Adam?
Did you review the USGS wells? I know they have wells scattered throughout. I know the Watermaster actually participates in the monitoring of those wells. Hopefully there are some wells near that area. Matt and Peter, you guys are probably aware of the latest static water level measurements in that area by the USGS, that is.
Yes, I actually did look at the wells and looked at the water level hydrographs in those wells. And,
right.
The problem is that the last measurement we have from those wells is March of this year. And, Bannock is currently pumping right now. And a lot of the water level declines might be happening after March.
No. Right.
So it's kind of inconclusive.
Sure. Do they do 1 or 2 measurements a year? USGS.
They usually do 2, but I think the COVID kind of prevented them from doing some of their March ones also.
Yeah, and Matt, Kate, this is Matt. The USGS did resume some of their monitoring since March, so we may want to check and see if they have updated results for wells near this location. And,
yeah, that's a good idea.
And we could always reach out to them and do another check for those wells near this location to see if things changed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, great.
And
I'll do that.
What is the physical location of this industrial well, Kate?
Do you have can you look at the screen? And do you have a?
I can't. I can't. I'm sorry. I can't. I don't want to miss out things here. Just give me an address if you have it, if you don't mind.
Let me look for that.
So, Adam, it's north of, if you're familiar with the Willow Springs Water Bank location, it's north of that.
Oh, okay. So it's way down there. Okay.
Yeah, so it's in the West Antelope sub-area.
Yeah, it's in Kern County.
Yeah, in Kern County.
I don't know if AVEC has any wells there, or maybe that's the only reason I was saying we can do some measurements ourselves if you want to.
Yeah. Yeah, AVEX wells are pretty far south of this location.
Right. So okay. All right, I think yes is all what we got there.
Hey, Kate, this is Rob. I had a question for you. Has
Hey, Rob.
this applicant been paying for replacement water in the past?
So when the pumping was brought to the attention of the Watermaster, we contacted Mr. Bannock, and he has been very responsive and immediately indicated what he was pumping, because his well is metered, industrial well is metered, and paid a replacement water assessment for his water use in 2018, 2019, and the first half of 2020.
Okay.
And I mentioned, I just wanted to emphasize that I actually had a notation to make that as part of my report, but since we're on Mr. Bannock now, he was sent an enforcement letter on July 9th and responded promptly, provided information willingly, voluntarily. We sent him assessment notices for 2018, 2019, including up to through July 18th of this year. And he literally paid them, I believe, this day he got the assessment notice or the day after. I only share that because I think it's he's been operating in good faith and very above board in terms of his production out on the property. Once it came to our knowledge, the Watermaster's knowledge, that there may be excessive pumping occurring out in that area. So I want to hold him up as a person that is trying to be responsive to the requirements of the judgment and not in the least evading his responsibilities to pay replacement water assessment for excess production.
Good to hear. Now, as a follow-up question, maybe this is to Kate. Kate, since this gentleman has been pumping, at least 18, 19, 20, and maybe even before that, what these folks that are saying that there is an impact to their wells, if I understand you correctly, did they see that impact during these years when this pumping was taking place?
I didn't talk to them, and I think they're anonymous, and I think they just reported that he was selling water and pumping quite a bit. And so I don't know anything about that. And I'm hoping that by bringing this up now, that person will come forward, or anyone in that area will come forward and say, hey, I've been seeing water level declines in my well also. But Mr. Bannock was not pumping this well in 2016 and 17. In 2018, he only pumped like less than 1 acre-feet per year. In 2019, he pumped about 82 acre-feet. And this year is the year he's been pumping a lot. And between January and mid-July, he pumped over 100, like 110 acre-feet per year. So impacts would be probably this summer. If people are seeing impacts.
But the other, you said this gentleman is a small pumper, correct?
Correct.
So, a legal question for Craig. This doesn't sound right for some small pumper, which I think they were allowed to pump up to 25 acre-feet for beneficial use. But if this gentleman is selling this water to a third party, I don't think that would be. I know Kate said there is nothing in the judgment that prevents him from doing that, but I have a hard time believing that's the case. Otherwise, why would we limit the amount of water that a small pumper can pump to 25 acre-feet?
Yeah, and
so we need to be very, very.
Yeah, part of this is teeing this up now. His new production application is going to come before the board at the next month's meeting. And if there's questions, the hope was to stir the conversation now, that there might be neighbors that want to come forward or others about the potential material injury of granting that application. But I don't.
No, I get that. Go ahead.
Sorry?
I said, to me, it's very unorthodox for somebody to decide, because once we go down that path, we won't prevent anybody from pumping 600 acres, 1,000 acres, and start selling it to the secondary market. So, beneficial use was meant, for your own use. Not to start creating secondary markets for the water.
Yeah. But remember, his application is for new production. It's going to be subject to material injury analysis, and he's metered. So this can be reanalyzed if he exceeds his new production application. We're going to know from metering records. Enforcement, I think, will be readily instituted if there's a violation of the new production application approval next month. As a small pumper, he's only entitled to 3 acre-feet for domestic use a year. So,
Craig,
he's asking for 250.
Adam, you still had a comment?
No, I'm just saying that he's asking to pump 250.
Yeah.
So, Craig, this will answer the question that came up earlier during the new production vote, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so we'll have a answer to those questions, and this is a good application to understand exactly what the judgment says about this. Again, Adam, my feeling is that I'm pretty certain, and we'll find out next month, but the judgment allows for other property to be developed throughout the valley as long as people are paying for their usage of water. So we'll have that answered next month.
Yeah, right. I agree with you. I just think there are limits, and I think Craig already mentioned the 3 acre-feet for the small pumpers, and that's why I was bringing it up.
Right, and this is a little bit different where we have a small pumper now applying for new production, and so this will answer some questions that haven't been answered before. Good. So any further discussion? Anything else on your report, Kate?
That's all I have. Thank you very much.
Did we give you any guidance at all?
I think the Adam, the USGS, data from Adam, I can look and see if there's new data. I thought that was very helpful.
Great.
And I didn't want to blindside everybody by having it on the.
Now this actually, really appreciate you bringing this up. It's very timely, and it gives Craig some direction as far as items that we're all going to need to know
Right. And I know, Kate, you're working closely with Craig, but for sure, for this particular case, you need to coordinate with him and his legal opinion.
Yes, definitely. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else on your report, Kate?
Nope, that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Craig?
Yes, just some updates on court matters. On September 29th, the court will hear a number of things, including the final approval of the rules and regulations. You'll recall we truncated that approval over the last couple of board meetings and finally approved Section 9 at the last board meeting. There's been some reformatting that's been done, not changing obviously of any language. The language has been approved by the board, but there was some formatting, paragraph sections that were needed to be cleaned up that had been routed through the ad hoc committee for a comment. And that rules and regulations motion for approval by the court will be heard on the September 29th calendar. At the same time, the court's hearing some motions to intervene related to parties that you've already approved their applications for transfers. Herbert, Malwa, LLC. Just an update that their motions to intervene will also be heard on September 29th by the court. SCI has already been granted its motion to intervene, but it's wanting to be approved for a production right, and there's a status conference on that on September 29th that I'll give you an update at the next board meeting, and particularly in the October board meeting. Five Lions and Calandry Farms, brought their motion to intervene. It was granted by the court on July 29th. And so there's a number of matters to be heard on the court. The other update is that the annual report was submitted for filing purposes with the court on July 30th. There's nothing required of the court to do. It doesn't approve it. It just accepts the filing. That's the requirement that we have under the judgment. That was done, and it's to be done by August 1st of each year. That was done July 30th. So the motions to intervene will be heard. Presumably they're not being opposed and will go forward. There's the SCI status conference and the motion on the rules and regulations, all to be heard on September 29th. We'll be filing the election results. Again, they're not for approval by the court. They're just to be filed pursuant to the rules and regulations with the court. And we plan to have an updated declaration and updated tally sheet to submit to the court in the next few days. That's all the court matter updates. Any questions about any of those updates?
Greg, this is John Calandri. I just wanted to, I know it's probably not necessary, just wanted to still state for the record that I do not own any part of Calandri Farms. That is my son's, and I have no interest in that, whatever.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Okay. This is Adam. I just wanted to make sure that I'm sure it have been already. Kate, we filed the lower level reports and all that, or whatever data we need to file with the state.
Is that Sigma? Is that Sigma reporting? Yep.
Yeah,
Sigma reporting's been done and it's been filed. Correct.
I kind of thought so. I just thanks. Appreciate it.
Welcome.
The status of appeals is that the briefing continues to go forward. Not all the briefing is completed on the various appeals. My understanding from being copied on the court's filing process for the Court of Appeals is that probably complete briefing will be done hopefully by the beginning of next year, and then they'll be set for oral argument. And any of the attorneys that are involved in the appeals, that they have a different view, but sounds like the argument may go forward in the spring of next year, depending on the timing of the Court of Appeal. They're voluminous appeals. The records are very large. So we're not taking an active role in that, just monitoring it. It's just a matter of update for the board as to where that's going. The last matter is the status of enforcement letters. I've already mentioned Mr. Bannock and his response. We received information from neighbors that there may be excessive water use associated with cannabis growing in a couple of locations, and we've sent letters to the property owner of each of those locations, alerting them to the fact that they may be pumping in excess of the judgment, and to be in touch with Watermaster staff so that we can get accurate information, and we'll follow up on that. But that was, again, diligent reporting by people concerned about water usage that may not be in compliance with the judgment, just as Mr. Bannock's situation was. So we've been following up on that. We sent a letter out just about a week and a half ago and asked for a response in 30 days. So I'll have an update for you at the next board meeting. So that's my report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Craig. We appreciate it. Adam?
One last question. Yeah, one last thing, because I want Dennis to hear this before, since this is his last meeting. He's always wanted to know what would happen to Singing Hill. Where are we on that, Craig?
Yeah, that is in a position where the Phelan is appealing the judgment. we were in process of discussions with them the last couple of months about whether they could address their replacement water assessment by virtue of transfers. We decided to let them raise the issue instead of making a predetermined decision on that we'd wait for an application from them. Nothing has occurred. And so we can discuss at the next meeting, fill-in as Exhibit A as to how we want to proceed with them. And that may need to be in closed session.
Okay. All right, I tried, Dennis.
Thanks. Thanks, Adam. I appreciate it. Get the money. Show me the money.
I will make sure that we get the money just for you.
Let me just say, Mr. Bannock's response to our enforcement letter was immediate, and his payment was approaching $100,000. So,
wow,
that was a.
He must be selling this water for a lot more money.
Yeah. I don't want to step into that, Adam.
I know. No, we're
Okay.
just doing our job. I don't care what you charge it for.
Okay, is there any further items? We're now on item 12, board members' requests for future agenda items. Are there any future agenda items? Obviously, the one we talked about, Craig, you're going to bring us information about new production.
Yes.
And Adam, any others?
No, I don't have any. I just want to thank Dennis for his service, for the leadership that he provided to the Watermaster Board in a period that I believe was very critical. We wish you all the best and hope that you will be monitoring us from afar and or even holding our feet to the fire, making sure that we're doing our job. So thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you, Adam.
Any other future agenda items? And before we do adjourn, I too want to thank you, Dennis, for your service. You were instrumental during a really important time for our Watermaster Board, and your ability to lead and help us all come together was just huge for us all. So thank you very much. You're going to be missed, and we're looking forward to Derek coming on the board. So thank you.
Thank you.
I also want to say thank you, Dennis, for all your leadership. And though I was watching from the outside most of the time, I saw how you brought people together. And that's why we were able to go so far over this long battle that we have. And now there's just a feeling of transparency and trust. So thank you.
Thank you. You guys will enjoy Derek. He's going to do a great job for you.
Yeah. Dennis, this is Calandry. I want to also express my gratitude for what you did. And Exhibit 4 people picked the right guy when they picked you. And you needed to be the first one, and you were amazing. So thank you so much.
Thanks, John.
So we started the meeting in honor of you, Dennis, and we're going to adjourn the meeting in honor of you. And hopefully you will listen to our meetings in the future as long as we're on Zoom. So
thank you so much.
Okay, everyone.
Amen.
No further comments.
Thank you.
At this point, I'm going to announce that our next meeting is September 23rd. Make sure that's on your calendar. Patty will be working with all the board members for more instruction on using Zoom so that we get better at it. And at this point, I will adjourn.
And I won't be here next meeting, so it'll be Angel and Matt doing the
Angel and Holly will. Thank you, everybody. Be safe out there, and we'll be back September 23rd. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.